ABC 6 News 11 at 11 starts right now.
Coming up on ABC 6 News 11 at 11, how Waterfire Providence is honoring veterans and active service members with a special full lighting tonight. And the latest after a news station in Boston was vandalized. What police say they found spray painted across the front of the building. Plus new details after Israeli officials say there can't be a temporary ceasefire. How the United Nations is responding tonight. But first, we begin with breaking news tonight. Providence police say one person was stabbed outside of Desire Gentlemen's Club on Franklin Square this evening. According to police, a fight broke out outside the club involving members of Hell's Angels. The victim was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 33-year-old William Ingram Hughes is currently in custody facing a charge of disorderly conduct. Officials say they have yet to determine if Ingram Hughes is the suspected stabber at this time. But stick with us on air and online for the latest. Now to our top story on 11 at 11. The victim of a hit-and-run crash in Woonsocket has died. Good evening to you and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Alyssa Azara. Woonsocket Police Chief Thomas Oates says the 71-year-old man who was allegedly hit by 30-year-old Jared Travers died from his injuries around 8 o'clock Friday night. Police say the hit-and-run happened on Diamond Hill Road around 6:15 Friday. Travers was arrested and charged with failing to stop in an accident, resulting in serious injury, and failing to render assistance to the victim. He is being held on a $10,000 surety bail pending his next court date. Meanwhile, in Providence, a mother is facing charges after police say she caused a 3-car pileup with her 2 young children in the car. State police say they responded to Route 10 North near Union Avenue around 6 p.m. Friday, where a car driven by 36-year-old Stephanie Garcia hit a car that then drove into another car. Garcia is charged with driving under the influence, DUI with a passenger under 13, and reckless driving. Her 2 kids were taken to the hospital for minor injuries and are now in DCYF custody. Garcia is now at the ACI in Cranston as a violator of her probation. Pawtucket police arresting a woman in connection to a road rage shooting last night. Police say 36-year-old Kendra Johnson is facing multiple charges, including domestic felony assault and child endangerment. Johnson allegedly chased down her ex-boyfriend and crashed into his car multiple times before shooting at him and his passenger, all while with her 4-year-old child in the car. Police say no one was injured. Police in Boston still searching for the person they say vandalized a news station. It happened at CBS Boston headquarters on Soldiers Field Road, where police say they found red paint all over the front of the building. Officials say security footage showed a person arrived at the station just before midnight, spray painting the building along with tagging Free Palestine in black paint. Anyone with information is asked to call Boston Police. Turning now to some other local headlines we are tracking tonight. In Easton, Massachusetts, a project barely passing, residents voting yes to replacing and consolidating 17 outdated facilities into 3 new ones. Voters approved the debt exclusion to pay for the bonds to construct a new police, fire, and public works facilities. Town officials say the project will cost roughly $150 million. The project passing by a mere 60 votes, with 12% of voters coming out today. The project will create a public safety complex housing both police and fire on Depot Street, as well as a public works complex, plus a new fire substation at Washington and Main Street. In Cranston today, the Friends of the Cranston Public Library held their annual book sale at the William Hall Library on Broad Street. The sale offered fiction and nonfiction books, CDs, DVDs, children's books, and cookbooks. 100% of today's proceeds went directly to supporting the library. And tonight marks the 11th annual Salute to Veterans Waterfire lighting. It's Waterfire's way of honoring the unique skills and leadership shown by veterans. It also pays respect to the sacrifices they made for our country. The ceremony had guest speakers and a performance by the Army 88th and Navy Band. Plus, the torch procession was led by 100 veterans and active duty service members. There was also an honorary wreath laying and the playing of taps. Well, it's time to put on those costumes and take to the Rhode Island Convention Center for this year's Rhode Island Comic Con. The event runs through tomorrow night and features plenty of artists from around the world, vendors, tattoo artists, and dozens of celebrity appearances. Those include, but are not limited to, Anthony Daniels, known for playing C-3PO in the Star Wars franchise, Greg Nicotero, makeup artist for The Walking Dead, and rapper and producer Logic. Meanwhile, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority is seeking volunteers for an emergency evacuation drill on November 19th. First responders need members of the public to role play as passengers. The drill will be on an MBTA commuter line in the Wales Tooth parking lot in New Bedford. Volunteers must be 12 years or older to participate. And for more information, you can head to our website, abc6.com. You are taking a live look outside over the city of Providence this evening. Let's get a check on the forecast now with meteorologist Kelly Bates. She joins us in the Weather Center. Kelly, what's the weather looking like?
It's looking pretty great. You know, it's been some time since we've been able to say that both weekend days are going to be dry. And now we get to, because we're headed into a dry overnight that will turn into a dry Sunday. So right now, as we're overlooking the city, our visibility is awesome. We can see as far as we can. We do have mostly cloudy skies with a temperature of 46. Winds are really, really light at 3 miles per hour. So they are too light to register a wind chill. And this is how we're going to go as we head into the overnight. So mostly cloudy skies. You'll notice there are some showers off to our west and also little light ones to our south. They're not expected to make it to the ground level. They are tied to a warm front, though. That's going to keep things on the warmer side as we go through the overnight, holding us in the 40s, and it does translate to a warmer start for your Sunday. So if you've got tickets to the Pats game, you're in for a really splendid fall day. You may even, need the sunblock rather than the mittens, because temperatures in Foxborough will also be near 60 degrees. So we do have several chances for rain in the upcoming week, and we'll talk more about that and get a plan in place for you coming up in just a couple of minutes. Alyssa?
Thank you. We are turning now to national headlines. We're tracking tonight on 11 at 11. Last night, President Biden met with survivors and family members of the victims of last month's mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. More than a week after suspected gunman Robert Card walked into a bowling alley and bar and opened fire, killing 18 people. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden arrived to offer comfort to a community in mourning. The mayor of Lewiston declaring November 3rd as I Love Lewiston Day to remember those lives lost and the resilience of the town.
So people were out all over the city putting up remembrance ribbons. We obviously had the president's visit. People are holding up. You know, Lewiston is a magnificent city, and our collective strength is far greater than any number of bullets.
The mayor continued, saying the events of October 25th have shaken their community, but he has no doubt that they will be all okay. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court agreed to decide whether a Trump-era ban on bump stocks violates federal laws. The ban on bump stocks, an attachment that can produce a continuous stream of fire from semi-automatic rifles, came after the horrific shooting in Las Vegas back in 2017 that left 58 people dead and hundreds injured. However, in 2010, under the Obama administration, the ATF did not classify bump stocks as a machine gun and say they should not be banned under federal law. A decision is expected by early summer next year. Turning now to our continuing coverage of Israel's war with Hamas. Israel's bombardment of Gaza continued on Saturday, the military striking a UN shelter in northern Gaza. Take a listen.
Israel's bombardment of Gaza continued on Saturday, the military striking a UN shelter in northern Gaza, according to the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, adding the death toll is not immediately clear. That attack part of a series of airstrikes as Israel escalated its ground invasion and encircled Gaza City. ABC's Ian Pannell embedded with Israeli troops at an undisclosed location inside the Gaza Strip.
You can hear the sound of gunfire, of tank fire. You can see the Israeli troops here. You can hear the sound of explosions and thick black smoke rising in the distance. This is one building I can show you. Obviously, something that was a civilian building. What the Israelis say is that Hamas have used these kind of buildings, using the civilians as essentially shields to launch their attacks.
Meanwhile, Hamas continues its strikes against Israel, launching rockets into Ashkelon in southern Israel Saturday night. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari says Israel's ground forces reported that they are in control of every battle and have the upper hand. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Jordan Saturday, meeting with 6 regional Arab leaders, reaffirming U.S. support for a humanitarian pause in fighting as opposed to a ceasefire in order to get hostages out and aid into Gaza.
It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th. None of us can accept that. No one would find that tolerable.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Friday Israel is going full steam ahead unless the estimated 240 hostages believed to be held by Hamas are released. While in Delaware Saturday, President Joe Biden expressing optimism about a pause in fighting to get hostages out and aid into Gaza.
Mr. President, any progress on a humanitarian pause? Yes.
Chuck Severson, ABC News, New York.
Well, in Washington, D.C., in response to the conflict overseas, hundreds took to Freedom Plaza by the National Mall in support of Palestine, calling for a ceasefire. Protesters could be seen carrying Palestinian flags and bearing signs that read, "Let Gaza live" and "Free Palestine." Protesters and organizers directly calling on President Biden, chanting, "No ceasefire, no votes." Providence City Councilman Miguel Sanchez posted to Twitter at the protest in D.C. today. Sanchez was recently fired by Governor McKee for his public comments on the war between Israel and Hamas. All right, still to come on ABC 6 News at 11. A strong earthquake has left Nepal shaken with more than 100 dead and dozens more injured. The latest on the search and rescue efforts tonight. Plus, meteorologist Kelly Bates is here with your full weather forecast for the weekend and taking a look ahead into the work week. Stay with us. We'll be right back.